Maurice in Groningen, the Netherlands. Always curious about the Netherlands. I guess I always think of the Netherlands as just Holland, right? But I think it also includes Belgium. I see, I'm just the dumb American that I've been to all these places and I can't remember what everybody calls them. All right. Anyway, Maurice writes to me and he says, I am curious how you would describe the sound signature of different kinds of tweeters. For instance, the differences between ribbons, planars, beryllium, silk, dome, paper cones, and titanium. Well, God, that is a huge question. One that our speaker designer, Chris Brunhaver, would be, would be much better to ask, but Chris isn't here, so let me do my best. And I'll start with a little bit of a story. When I left PS Audio in 1990 to join Arnie Nudell in Colorado, we had lived in California at the time, and start Genesis Technologies, my first venture into loudspeakers. Arnie had left Infinity, wanted to start a new company, and invited me to be his partner. So I remember distinctly sitting in Arnie's living room in Beaver Creek, and he had a condo in Beaver Creek, which is why we moved to Colorado. Arnie was an LA guy, and I was a Santa Maria, San Luis Obispo, Atascadero guy in California. But Arnie was a skier, and he had a condo in Beaver Creek, and that's when he left Infinity. He really never returned to LA. He just stayed in Colorado, and so we moved our family there. But the reason I bring it all up is I never forget Arnie sitting there holding this ribbon tweeter, and he said, Paul, let me teach you something. Arnie was clearly my mentor for many years. An entire loudspeaker line, the whole concept of a company's loudspeaker is based on the tweeter. Everything else, woofers, mid-ranges, it's all about the tweeter. And that's always stuck with me because Arnie believed that tweeters were the core, the basis of a speaker line. And if you think about it, think about B&W. They have different variations of their diamond tweeter and all that, but it's kind of the same thing. Think of speakers that were based on the AMT tweeter. Think of the Aspen line of loudspeakers that we have, which is based on a planar tweeter that Chris designed. So it kind of holds true whether or not somebody who started something knew it or not. So let me just go into a broad answer to the question, because I am by no means a loudspeaker expert. I leave that to Chris Brunhaver. Chris is a loudspeaker expert, one of the best in the world, and we're blessed and lucky to have him as part of the team at PS Audio. In general, my opinion, film, flat, planar, and ribbon tweeters are my favorite, and they have a sound that doesn't have a sound, if that's a good way to put it. So a planar tweeter, a ribbon tweeter, all of those built properly have so little mass, and they're on a flat plane that they just don't have a sound to them, and that's what I like about them. Arnie was the first person to show that to me. He said, this ribbon tweeter it's a thin piece of Kapton, has almost no mass whatsoever, and you just don't hear it. It just makes music. When you go to a dome tweeter, and I don't care what it is, beryllium, sapphire encrusted, whatever, domes all seem to have a sound to them. Now, sometimes it's a sound you like, sometimes it's a sound you don't like, but they have a sound to them. And that's one of the reasons that I stay away from domes. If we do a low-cost loudspeaker, we probably will not be able to put in our planar tweeter because it's kind of expensive. So when we look at a Sprout speaker, for instance, we'll likely go with a dome. And there, we're going to pick the dome that has the least amount of coloration and sound to it possible. Other kinds of tweeters, there are basically domes, there are AMT, and AMT is kind of an accordion that squeezes the air in and out, and there are a number of companies that use that. There are electrostatic tweeters, very rare, but they're there, and those are great. They don't seem to have much of a sound to them, though the rest of the speaker does. But for the tweeter, an electrostatic tweeter hardly has a sound to it at all. So in general, planars, ribbons, electrostats really don't have much of a sound to them when it comes to a tweeter. Domes, AMTs, and the like all have a sound to them. And then you have to decide whether or not you like the sound or you don't. So hope that helps.